And we are live. This is the second time that I'm doing this, and I will get better at my checklist related to audio. But for whatever reason, I've recorded a couple of these things where the audio is not actually coming through. It's not picking up the right mic. How do we simplify decision making? Well, one of the things that I like to do, or here's three ways that I like to go through and do that. I've got different tools that I use for different things to help accelerate decision making and simplify decision making. The first tool that I'm going to talk about is a 2x2. Many of us are familiar with 2x2s if we have read Covey's work on the 7 habits. And one of the 2x2s that he introduced us to is one that he borrowed from Eisenhower, the Eisenhower matrix. And that was all about plotting the work that you're doing on one axis, so whether or not it was urgent, and on the other one, whether or not it was important. And for me, the way that I like to do this, in addition to what Eisenhower did to help with his decision making on tasks, I like to look at things like energy. Does it suck the life out of me on this side? Low energy that just sucks energy out, or does it bring me high energy on this side? And where does it fit on that continuum? Is the work that I'm doing something that just drains me, takes everything out of me, makes me feel less than when I'm done with it? Or does it provide high energy? Where does it fit on that continuum? So that's all about energy. On the other axis, it's about impact. Is this low impact, maybe even no impact? Doesn't really have an impact on anything. Think of some of the social media stuff that we'll do, maybe really, really low impact versus high impact. High impact could be on myself, high impact could be on others. So low impact versus high impact, low energy versus high energy. If I understand the work that needs to be done in those areas, or the task that I'm working through, if I can quickly assess it, is it going to bring me energy? Is it going to have high impact? Is it going to suck the life out of me? Is it going to have low impact? Then I go, hey, should I actually do this thing? Low energy, low impact. I really should eliminate that stuff. High energy, high impact. I want to do more of those things, Now, what you've got to do is you've got to be able to assess yourself personally to determine, is this something that gives you energy or not? And you've also got to assess the market. Is this something that makes an impact or doesn't make an impact? Does it actually move a needle? Does it move a needle inside the organization? Does it move a needle for people? So a quick 2x2. The cool thing about 2x2s is they provide an ability to look at things through a separate dimension. It's really easy to get yourself caught in the trap of doing a lot of work that you think is high impact and just going and going and going and going for the sake of going, or someone tells you that it's high impact and you just keep going. But if it's not bringing you energy, how much is it actually taking away from you? And is there actually somebody better to do that work? So quick decision-making tool related to energy and impact. The second one that I'm going to share is the same tool that I shared yesterday at the Learning and Technology Conference in Chicago. And this is about investment decision making. I've used it as a proposal plan when coaching revenue teams and training folks on getting better at delivering proposals to customers. And we can actually use it for ourselves when we start to make decisions on, do we invest time, energy, or resource in something? And the first question we want to answer is what? What is the specific problem that we're solving for? What's this thing that we're working on? What? And let's have a clear definition. If there's multiple people involved in the decision, you're going to add complexity, and you've got to make sure you're aligned on what that problem is. The next piece is why. What's the business impact? Why is it important to solve? If we're working on problems that are not important to solve, that don't have an impact on the business, then maybe we should eliminate those problems. We should decide not to do those things. Remember, on our 2x2, we had high impact versus low impact. Why? Why do we need to do this thing? What's the impact? What's it actually going to change inside the organization? Okay. On the bottom part of the square, how? What are our options? What are we going to do short-term, medium-term, long-term? What are our next steps? What solution are we putting in place? What, why, how, and the last one here, cost. Now, cost could be money cost. Cost could be things like time, Cost could be things like people. We have to throw additional resources at this. And if I can go through the problem that I'm working on really quickly and just kind of say, all right, what's the problem or challenge that we're working through? Why is it important business impact? How can we do it? Do we know how to do it? How can we do it? What's our plan? And then what are the costs associated with it? Then I'm going to be able to move quickly through um, the decision making process and reduce potential risk relative to making a poor decision. Now, how do I reduce risk? Well, quickly, if I look at this shape, if any of the questions are really unclear, meaning we're not aligned on the definition of the problem, or it's unclear about how we are actually going to go through the solution, then that shape can't hold water. It's an indicator of risk. So, quick tool. We have the 2x2, then we have the square to help with simplifying decision making. I've got a third one that I'm going to share. And these Whiteboard Wednesday videos, my goal is to run them anywhere between about 10 and maybe 15 minutes. Let me know what you think. I think each of these could kind of be split up, and maybe I'll split them into shorts based on timing. But let me know what you think about timelines. But I'm expecting anywhere between about 10 and 15 minutes for each of these Whiteboard Wednesday videos. The third tool is our guiding principles or core values, depending on how you want to look at them inside the organization. And I don't want to get into the details behind values and principles, but I think of these as guiding principles. They can also be interpreted as core values. I have a list of guiding principles that help inform me relative to decisions that I'm making if I'm struggling with something. First one is understand the customer better than they understand themselves. So understand. If I'm in a situation or someone I'm working with is in a situation we don't understand the customer better than they understand themselves in this context, how are we actually going to help them? How are we going to provide any additional guidance or advice relative to the solution that they might be looking for? So we've got to understand the customer better than they understand themselves. And that requires asking questions. So understand the customer better than they understand themselves. Again, I'm sharing mine. You should have yours. It's important to have yours because yours help with the decision-making process. And you can kind of go through this and say, do I understand the customer better than they understand themselves? If yes, advance. If no, do some more research. Number two, solution in the context of what's important to the customer. Both of these are customer focused because a lot of the work I do is customer facing, external customer facing, but this works both with external and internal customers. So understand the customer better than they understand themselves, yes or no. Solution, deliver the solution in the context of what's important to the customer, yes or no. If no, then don't advance. Let's revisit things. The third one is don't limit ourselves based on preconceived notions. Don't limit ourselves based on preconceived notions. Am I going in with a set of biases that are informing how I want to work with this organization, work with this customer, work with this person? If I am, then I'm in trouble. I got to be careful. I'm going to need to validate as I go through this. So customer, don't limit. Fourth one. This is one that I struggle with because sometimes I just try to do too much, but it's set expectations and execute. Set expectations and execute flawlessly. Did we set the right expectations? Yes, no. If we didn't set the right expectations, let's reset those expectations. If we did set the right expectations, are we doing what we said we're going to do? And then the fifth one for me is don't limit, the fifth one is don't let our problems become the customer's problems. I listed those out really quickly. If you want to see those actually on a sheet that I've got, I can send them to you. Just send me a direct message, and I'm happy to share those with you. The point here, though, is I've got 5 criteria, 5 quick things that I can go through to help inform the thing that I'm working through on the decision. Is the thing that I'm deciding to do, is the things I'm deciding to do, is the work that I'm deciding to work on, does it align with the core values, guiding principles of the organization? If yes, proceed. If no, stop. This comes from things like Stanley McChrystal's Commander's Intent, which is in your Team of Teams, and kind of like decentralized command. Some of the there's some military background in this. You don't, if it was people who are out there working in the field, you want to empower them to be able to make decisions, move forward, and then they can, then if mistakes happen, we can always go back and assess it against a set of values and say, well, maybe at one point we shouldn't have made that decision, we should have actually asked for some help. Maybe that wasn't the right decision to make at the right time given the information that's there. So 3 simple tools. 2x2, you can create your own. I shared one that I use, both the Eisenhower matrix and one that I've created around energy and impact. So 2x2, the investment decision-making tool, which is a catalyst tool. That's the square, what, why, how, cost, that investment decision-making tool, and then values or guiding principles. Use those 3 tools and you will simplify decision-making inside your organization. That organization could be your family. It can be the mental organization that you have inside your head. Use these 3 tools and you will simplify decision-making for yourself. If you have questions, hit me up directly. The best place to find me and any of the stuff that we're doing is findmycatalyst.com. And you will find your catalyst at findmycatalyst.com. Remember, I like to take questions. If you have questions, I'm happy to go deep on some of those questions, incorporate them into these live podcast that I'm doing. We are up to number 15. This is the 15th live version that we've done. We've hit every day except I think we've missed on a couple of Sundays. But other than that, we've been consistent in getting the content out there. Thanks for following. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thank you for sharing this with someone who you think it could help. Have an awesome day. And I'll sign this off in the same way that we sign off the podcast. Sales is a thinking process. Business is a thinking process. Life is a thinking process. How are you thinking differently about your process? Thanks.